Guess who I found on episode 127 of the Real Kyper at Noon show? Yes, back hibernating right now in the most beautiful province of our country, PEI. Let's welcome back Mr. Doug Maclean.
Great to be back, and I'm not hibernating, I'm quarantining. 14 consecutive days. I'm in day 2 as of right now. I got home yesterday, so day 2 of 14 days where we are not allowed to leave the property. PEI is unbelievably efficient. They phone every day and make sure you're home, make sure you're on the property, ask you the same questions over and over. Do you have a sneeze? Do you have a cough? Do you have a sore throat? Do you have a temperature? No. Anyway, we're tested, retested, and ready to go.
You should be used to that. I know on occasion there are times when Jill doesn't let you out of the house.
But there's many occasions where she wants me out and off the property.
I give her full credit. What was it in total? 3 weeks on the road in your RV, and she didn't kill you.
3 weeks and 2 days and 2,700 miles. Amazing trip. The Great Smoky Mountains was terrific. Maine is such a beautiful place. I mean, I don't know how many provinces we've hit, or states we hit, but anyway, we had a great trip.
Jordan, did you see my text of the picture of Mac watching the game on his little tiny phone?
Yeah, I did. I'll have to get that worked up. It's a little early. I'll get it going.
Get that one worked up because that
what people chirp. I didn't want my stand, my tripod. It's challenging to get my iPad on it, So I thought, well, the phone's good. I can just focus on it myself. So it's got, and then they were slamming my rocking chair. They don't like my carpet. They don't. Instead of saying what a great fire I had lit and the barbecue was going and I'm watching the game, they just have to hammer away.
I think people were more worried about like how you had a hydraulic chair in the wilderness.
And where do you buy the chair? But there was one guy I really liked, the guy that said, he is nearby where I was in Bar Harbor. And he said, that is not a hill he hiked. That is a damn mountain. And let me tell you something. 4 hours on that mountain was my heart rate got to 165 going up the hill. And my heart rate was at 155 going down the damn hills or mountain. Well, so it was fun.
I heard Jill's heart rate was about 120. So what's that say about you?
Exactly.
You know how I know you're back and on the show? I can hear your pen clicking in the background.
No, it's a bottle cap.
Oh, it's your bottle cap. Okay. Whatever the case is, I know you're back. I know you're back, and we know we're back.
What about Alan May talking about, like, I've got tree trunks for legs and he's chirping I've got skinny legs. Like, if he had my legs, he might have been able to be above a fourth liner in the NHL. Like, and say, the equipment.
Dagger.
He's such a bullshit artist. But you know what? He's made a career out of it, so I got to give him credit.
And he is making a career out of broadcasting, and we appreciate him coming back.
Yes, we sure do.
Every once in a while.
We sure do. I wish he could become full-time.
Some great comments from his performance on Monday. Actually, some great comments saying how much they enjoyed his take on things and stuff. So big shout out to Alan.
Yeah,
that's the Capitals fans. Come on,
and including he likes. I dare say this to you, Mac. He's more of a Rick Tocchet fan than he is a Gerard Gallant fan.
Well, that tells you where his hockey knowledge is right there. Nothing more has to be said.
All right,
Jordan was the only guy that stuck up for me, by the way, and I appreciate it, Jordan. I listened to it. You were the only guy that stuck up for me in the group, so I was proud of you, man.
I got your back,
Jordan,
bro.
Did we get that picture up?
Oh yeah, got it up. I put it on the screen. Yeah.
Okay, can you show it one more time?
Absolutely.
Because the other one that got attention, not just the hydraulic chair, but the other one was You had a little boo-boo on your ankle with a Band-Aid. Everybody can see the
Yes.
Band-Aid?
Yeah, I'll zoom
Like,
in a little
I
further
s-
for
is
everyone.
is that your equivalent to a lower body injury, Mac?
That was a stray branch caught me on the way down the hill mountain.
You poor
It was
thing.
time when I was going down the mountain. There was times where I was grabbing the birch tree for balance. Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you something. We go up this mountain, and when you're into real hiking when you're on all fours going up the mountain.
Now, did Jill have to pull out her little first aid kit for you and
She
sit you
she had the
down?
Band-Aid available, ready to go. It didn't need stitches. So I was lucky on that.
Oh my God, you are soft as baby
Oh, I
shit.
am. I am so soft.
Well, I'll
But
tell
anyway,
you what.
look, it's a great test. And you know what? I finished down the mountain. I said, I feel so good after doing this 4 hours. After I get over the nauseum, sort of thinking, please, when is this over? That I've decided I'm going to get back on the weights, and I'm going to really become a real fitness guy in my retirement.
Good. You and Arnold Schwarzenegger. You should train together. Maybe even
Exactly.
get The Rock. You and PK Subban and The Rock. All right,
I was thinking more of PJ Stock. He likes to show his weight training routine.
You know who's not as soft as baby doo-doo, Mac, are the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I can't for the life of me work this out in terms of, was this a closer series than 5, or are they embarrassed a little bit of being out so early? Sebastian Aho had a very, very candid post-game press conference where he just talked about we're not close, and really stressed his disappointment and how they did not really take a step forward in all of this. And they're not selling it that way for Carolina. And I thought Carolina could win this series. I really did. I thought that they were going to make it close, and there were signs of Tampa Bay's game throughout the regular season that suggested, if you catch them in a weak spot, maybe they can be had. But I don't know. It wasn't that close, was it?
Well, you know what? It was close 5-on-5 as far as play, but the power play, like, 2 guys really jump out at me in this whole series. Number one is Braden Point. I mean, how many times we have to talk about how good, like, was he not the difference maker in this series? He and Vasilevsky. They, to me, and I know the power play, I get, but what Braden Point is able to accomplish through 2 rounds of the playoffs, and what Vasilevsky did in this series with the shutout and the clincher and on, this guy has become, I mean, right now, Carey Price and he are the 2 by far the best goalies in the playoffs for me. Well, I know, with all due respect to Fleury, but I'm telling you, Point, what about Braden Point? Like, seriously, Nick.
45 points, Mac, in 34 playoff games.
Amazing.
And as strong as a player he is very quickly putting himself in a position to have one of those all-time reputations for being a clutch performer in history, Mac. That's where he's climbing right now.
You want to believe it. And I mean, we talk Kucherov, we talk Stamkos, we talk Hedman, and they deserve a ton of respect. But this guy has become the glue guy with this team. The other thing that jumped, besides Vasilevsky, the depth. I mean, every line was coming at you. Remember last year, it was Goudreau, Coleman, and Gord was a line that came at you. All of a sudden, the fourth line started to come at you. You all of a sudden have got those guys pounding away at you as well. With
Ross.
Colton scores. I mean, it just was all 4 lines. All of a sudden, will battle, and we talk about it every night when we're watching playoff hockey. Who's going to battle the hardest? Montreal Canadiens or Toronto Maple Leafs? That out. Who's going to battle harder? Colorado, Vegas. We're finding that. Who's going to battle harder? That it's every night. And right now, they're a pretty battle-ready team. Last year, all we talked about was Goudreau, Coleman, Cirelli. Now, all of a sudden, you talk Gord. Now you got to talk 4 lines at battle with Tampa Bay. And we haven't even talked about their friggin' blue line.
Yeah,
that is as good as any in the game.
I think the biggest compliment that you can give Tampa Bay is that, and we just spoke of him, Braden Point played less than 18 minutes. How can a guy do that every night in the playoffs and make you feel like he's playing 25 or 26 minutes when he's under 18?
I know. I know. I mean, he makes the most of his time. I mean, he makes plays on the power play constantly. He wins puck battles for a guy that's not big. He leads rushes. I mean, his hockey IQ, I never envisioned his hockey IQ when he first started going to this level. I didn't know him in the Western League like lots of guys did and raved about him. I mean, his hockey IQ is over the top. And but there's so many guys, with this group. Killorn makes big plays at critical times. Kucherov does. Stamkos does. Gord does. Sorella does. It just goes on with this group,
And like you said, we didn't even get to the blue line.
Yeah.
And Chernak and Sergachev, you're not even mentioning Hedman and McDonough yet.
And Savard.
That's how deep they are. And while
right.
You wanted to shore up your offense with trades like Foligno and Hall, but Mac, you win championships from the net on out. Securing that blue line with Savard, while others like Winnipeg, are barely keeping their head above water on their blue line. It's mind-boggling that people didn't push harder for a guy like David Savard.
I mean, you and I talked about David Savard till we're blue in the face before the trade deadline. I mean, I know other people were, but we really said, look, so here's the thing. What happens most at playoff time? Teams change the way they drive the net. The way you go to the paint, the way you drive the net, the way you force pressure on the opposition's goaltenders, the way you force pressure on the opposition's defense is you got to go to the net. So you've got to be able to defend that. You got to be able to defend net presence. And Winnipeg, not even close to being able to do it. And Toronto, we're not even close to being able to do it. And you know what? Tampa Bay defend the net. I'll tell you that. Montreal have defended the net. And with all due respect, their goaltenders have been terrific besides that. But it's still a critical part. And Savard, the fact that Winnipeg Jets didn't get Savard blows me away. I know there was a great family connection there. Dubois lived at his house. I thought it was a natural. And for whatever reason, they decided not to give up the assets to get him. Well, I think they could have given up the assets, and I think they could have re-signed him. That's what I think. But maybe I'm wrong.
Interesting to hear Brindamore's comments about Vasilevsky. And we know that Brindamore in his heyday saw some of the best in Patrick Waugh, Hasek, Brodeur, Cujo, Mike Richter, who won the Stanley Cup with I was fortunate enough to be in 94 with him. And he says he's as good as he's ever seen Vasilevsky, which is an incredible comment.
You and I talked about it. We remember that 5 overtime game with Vasilevsky and Korpisalo a year ago. That's when I knew he was a good goaltender. I had heard lots about him when he was drafted. We heard all about him in Russia. But that was, to me, his unbelievable coming out party. And I'll tell you what, he hasn't dropped. I mean, I didn't think he was great in the Florida series. I didn't think they were great in the Florida series. Give some credit to Florida. But I'll tell you what, I listened to Brindamore, and when he was doing the handshake, you saw the conversation. And then I read it this morning, what he had actually said. And he's right on. This guy is dialed in. He's dialed in, as is Carey Price dialed in. And you know what? I don't care who the coach is. I don't give a rat's ass who the coach is. I'm listening now, all these great coaches. I'll tell you what. Tell me the best goaltender, and I'll tell you who probably is the best coach. Okay?
Yeah.
Peter DeBoer. I listen to McGuire talk then. Technically he's made some big. I'm thinking bullshit. Fleury's making huge saves. Yeah, there's some subtle changes. If you don't have unbelievable goaltending, you're a shit coach. Okay? Simple as that.
Do you not think Vasilevsky's almost got a little bit of that Grant Fuhr thing going? And I don't think it's anywhere near that level, but you could have a shitty game or certainly give up a shitty goal, but make the ones that you need to at the right time, and you can come out smelling like roses.
He does that, but to me, he does the same as Grant in that respect. But to me, he's more technically sound. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Rod
that
said
for
that.
sure.
Rod said that he's just everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere there's just doesn't appear to be a lot of holes in his game.
He is a lot more efficient in his movements.
Yeah,
and
sure is.
And more
he
disciplined.
Is. Yeah. So I mean, I look. They're lucky. Cooper said it. I mean, Cooper said like how. I mean, John Cooper's is pretty realistic in that. Look, he's a good coach, but he's got some big time talent. And, look, I know DeBoer has made some moves. I know Trotzy's, he flipped Pajot and Nielsen, which was a big move. And, Cassidy, everybody's got their little game. They're all, if you're in the NHL, you're a good coach. Come on. You pay your dues to get there. You pay dues for 25, 30 years to get a chance to coach in the NHL, and 40 years. And sometimes you never do. Obviously, many times you never do. There's so few jobs, but they're all good coaches. But I listen to some of these commentators with their bullshit. It gets on my nerves.
It's what you sell. It's what you can.
What a great
move. Sound bites.
What a great technical move. They've changed now. They're covering the big line in Colorado. They're paying attention to them. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? You don't think they talked about that before the series? Seriously. Anyway.
Okay. I want to have
I'm on a tangent.
I just want to get your thoughts on this whole goaltending kind of philosophy, because we've had teams go through this roller coaster of emotions of feeling like, yeah, I want a $9 or $10 million goalie, and then no need to have a $9 or $10 million goalie. We're better off having $2, $3 million goalies. And yet we watch Vasilevsky at 9, Price at 10.5, Fleury at 7, Rask, of course, right? And
Bobrovsky at 10.
And yet, now Montreal's feeling great about Price's 10.5, and Vasilevsky has been doing great, and Fleury's there to bail out a Vegas team when it was geared towards Robin Lehner. And now all of a sudden, Mac, paying a guy that you think is the real deal doesn't seem like such a bad idea anymore.
It's just if it's the right. Do you know how many goaltenders have made general managers and have made coaches? Like, do you think I'm an idiot? Think I realize?
You don't want me to answer that question.
Think I know that John Van Briesbroek made me look like a pretty good coach in the late 90s? You know what? Mark Denis, I love Mark Denis. I love Tugger, but they didn't make me look as good behind the bench as John Van Briesbroek did, So it's the right guy. You see Price drafted, high pick, number 5 overall in the draft. You see Hellebuck, high pick, relatively high pick. You see the Fleury, number 2 overall, number 1 overall, whatever it was.
1.
I mean, but there's no guarantees. You pay $10 million for Bobrovsky and he doesn't play. He doesn't dress. Like, good God.
Yeah.
So it's all over the map. But if you don't have great goaltending, you don't have a chance to win in the playoffs. And I remember Jimmy Rutherford says this all the time. Show me the best goaltender in the league and I'll show you the best coach.
Well,
all of a sudden, my good friend Dominic
Yes.
He's a really good coach.
He is a really good coach. And
I said it that I really liked him when they hired him. Remember that I've
Yeah, I
worked
know
with him
you
in the
did.
process. But
I
that's
know.
fine. It
'Cause you
doesn't
worked
matter. I
with
liked
him.
his presentation. But Dominic Ducharme would have been fired today if Price didn't stand on his head against the Leafs. Come on. We know that. Now he's going to get a 4-year contract,
The
maybe.
one thing, we've been around this game at the pro level a very long time, Mac. I've never seen the gap wider between style of play from the regular season to the playoffs. And Montreal and Price may be the best example of that, is that they are and have proven in the past to be a good playoff team. And that benefits Price more than anything. But
that's true.
It's unbelievable, Mac, that you watch for 56 games this year or 82 in the past, and our hockey it doesn't remotely look like the same hockey from the regular season to the playoffs.
No, it doesn't. And we sit every year and we say the same thing. I remember when I was a GM, sitting watching playoff games saying, oh man, we've got to be a bigger, stronger team. I remember saying to you 3 weeks ago, and I hope you remember me saying this, sometimes big, slow defensemen don't look as slow at playoff time.
And that's Montreal. They look like
we
geniuses
talked about
again.
Going into that series, we said, hey, those big, slow defensemen that everybody ripped all year, including us saying it, sometimes when they get into the playoffs, that big, slow defense have a way of slowing down those forwards that don't really want to go to the dirty areas. That's exactly what's happened in a couple of rounds. I mean, Winnipeg couldn't handle their defense couldn't handle Montreal's forward at the net, and Winnipeg's forwards couldn't get to the net against Montreal, and when they did, Price was there. The style changes, but there's certain teams that play the same way. Vegas played the same way all year as they're playing right now, okay? Boston Bruins played the same way. Islanders played the same way. Tampa Bay, well, they like to play a skill game, but we know they can play a friggin' tough game if they want. Those teams play the same way all year. They're still playing. But you can't be a skilled team and think you're going to become a battling team at playoff time. And it happens every year. And you sit there and you say, maybe we got to be a little bit different in the regular season to have success at playoff time. And I've been listening to this for 25 years. And I used to say it sitting watching games. Geez, I got to bring in some bigger, stronger guys. We got to be, but then you're worried about you need the speed in the regular season and the skill to make the playoffs. It's tough. But if you're not a battling group, you have no chance at playoff time. It changes too much.
I did a show with Russ Courtnall, and I'm not sure where the quote came from, but he said it's way easier to tear a house down than it is to build one. And is that not the Montreal Canadiens in a nutshell?
Yeah.
Is that all you have to do is make sure that you give your goaltender the best opportunity to shine. And I think that's just the game plan of the Montreal Canadiens. That's it in a nutshell, is our star is our goalie. And if it means that we're going to be locked in and Gallagher can feel like one's enough. One goal is enough for us. And we can honestly believe with that guy behind us, just getting one would be enough.
And it's not just about being big guys. It's Gord is a battler. Sorel is a battler. Point is a battler. You look at Montreal. I mean, we know Gallagher is, and we know, like Toffoli's given them a great playoff. Caulfield comes in. A lot of talk. Should he play? Should he play? Good God, when they're down 3-1, it was a no-brainer. He's got to play. At least he can score. Caulfield's made plays. He's not a big. You don't have to be a big guy. You got to be. You got to have balls the size of elephant balls. That's what you need.
Well, and if you don't check this time of year, and I think it was Andrew Kopp that went into the corner with Caulfield. You want to puck watch. You don't want to take the man, especially a shifty guy like Cole Caulfield. He's going to come out with the puck.
Yeah, big time. And when he gets it, he's going to shoot it or he can make a play. We talked about him. This kid was a hell of a player. I mean, I had people tell me going in the playoffs, people are going to love this guy. A guy, people watch him at Wisconsin for the last few years. I mean, this guy is a real player, So, you know what? It was a good move getting him in there. But, I'm kind of happy for Montreal. I mean, obviously, you're disappointed for Toronto. It was nice of the CN Tower to
I'm not
light
disappointed
the
for
tower
Toronto.
for the Habs. They seriously, what
Mac,
the hell is going on?
I'm an objective broadcaster. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Don't cheer. There's no cheering in the press box.
Seriously, Montreal are going to light a torch for Toronto if they're moving on. Who made that decision?
The CN Tower. You're talking about here in Toronto. They lit up the CN Tower to wish Montreal good luck in the conference final. It's a very sweet gesture.
I would have taken the red out of the CN Tower for the next 5 years. If there's any red that was there, I would have taken it out.
I think they're more likely to light a cigarette in Quebec for the Leafs than they are any sort of tower.
They're called darts.
Darts. They would have smoked a dart in honor of the Leafs.
By the way, I was coming across the border yesterday, and the guy says, "Do you have any tobacco?" And I pointed to Jill had gone ahead of me in the RV. I was right behind her, and I said, "I have 42 Monte Cristos." And he said, "Oh, you do?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm allowed 50, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "And Jill in front of me has 42 Monte Cristos." So she'd already got through.
She was already gone. You didn't need to rub that in.
Well, I wanted to know that I knew the rule was we could have 50 each. Jill claims 42 and I claim 42. So I cut back.
Okay, we got Tampa Bay and Montreal resting and having a good time, enjoying their rest as they get geared up for a conference final. But we still have some meat on the bone here. Last night, Mac, what looked like a comfortable situation in Colorado ended up coming right back in their face, blowing a 2-0 lead. What should have been a 3-2 lead for Colorado is now one in favor of Vegas. What were your overall thoughts? I think Colorado blew it last night. Really handed them what may have been the series.
And key veterans making the mistakes. Turnovers, like critical turnovers, And I mean, it just, to me though, and I talked to a scout yesterday prior to the game saying, if Colorado don't toughen up, they're going to have a hard time coming back and winning this series. It's speed versus brawn, and a lot of situations on the ice. And I'll tell you what, that was a devastating loss for Colorado last night. It really was. I mean, he called out his big line, his big boys, and you know what? They were in control, in command, and to blow that, I mean, to me, it would be devastating for Colorado. Devastating.
The first goal was one of the stranger ones we've ever seen because we are talking about one of the greatest playoff performers in history as well in Marc-Andre Fleury, and to whiff on that first shot by Saad, almost looking like an outfielder losing the ball in the lights, Mac. It was so uncharacteristic, but I loved his reaction to say that's on me. And like any of those greats in the past, doesn't matter what you let in. It's the one that you save that keeps your team in the game or gives them a chance to win. Fleury did it again.
I have been so blown away by Fleury since the day when we knew what he was in Pittsburgh. He lost his job to Matt Murray. Like, seriously. What the hell were they thinking? I mean, he loses his job to Matt Murray. Matt Murray was great. I know he won a cup. And he goes to Vegas, and since day one, like I talked to Gerard Gallant a lot about him, he is the consummate leader. He's the consummate competitor. He's a winner. I mean, single-handedly what he's done for that franchise. And they mess with him, and now he's shoving it right up their ass, like the way that he's playing. It's unbelievable how he has just held this team, and they love him. The players, they love him. So good on Fleury. And like you said, Nick, he whiffs and he battles.
Well, and I'll say this, Mac, and we've been on benches, a good portion of our life is that when you see something like that as a teammate, it really goes two ways. You can sit there and say, we're done.
Yep.
Or in this case, when you're Marc-Andre Fleury and you've built up enough stock that every guy or every coach or every trainer and the vibe on that bench is that he's going to shut the door for us. That we'll get over that. That never happens, and we know who you are, and we know what you're about. And they didn't alter too much. They didn't. It didn't look like it fractured them when it would have fractured so many more teams.
And then
to me, that's just Fleury saying it's on me, and then the rest of the guys to say, we got your back on this. We know you're going to hold us in there.
And then you go to Mark Stone, a great acquisition by Kelly McCrimmon, a great acquisition, and to get him signed, he has become like, I remember scouts telling me the guy couldn't skate. I don't know. I remember the guys telling me they were watching him in Binghamton and Ottawa's farm team saying, like, I don't know if this guy's ever going to be an NHL player. Hoffman was with him. Okay. They said Hoffman can skate, but he doesn't have the grit. Stone can't skate, but I wish we had a combination of the two. I remember the scouts telling me that. And now what has Stone become other than one of maybe the best players in the game?
This is the problem, Mac, is that, when certain people build teams and they think that they have to have the fastest skating team, and it's like, the game isn't, speed's great when you need speed, but speed can also kill you. It can also not be your friend. The game isn't about necessarily speed. It's about tempo. And Mark Stone doesn't necessarily play it with his feet. He is more about his head than anything else.
But he still plays fast.
He didn't look slow, Mac. Did he look slow to you, cutting through the neutral zone to bury one over Grubauer's glove? Did he look? They get there. Those type of guys still find a way to get there. It may not be as pretty, or it may look efficient, but they get there.
I remember going out scouting, and I remember a veteran scout telling me this. The number one thing you look for when you're watching a game and you're watching a player is the puck around them. When you leave the game, did you notice that the puck was always around this guy? Did you notice that all the best players, the puck is always around them? Either it's a give and go, or they have it, or they're making a play, or it's a defensive player, an offensive. The puck. Have you noticed at Braden Point that the puck is always around them? And you notice lots of other top guys, the puck's never around them. But they're perceived as a top player, but the puck's never around them.
Well, the ones
it's just a puck is always around Mark Stone when he's on the ice.
The top players who necessarily aren't great looking skaters. And I also look at Ryan O'Reilly. Who wouldn't want Ryan O'Reilly on their team? I picked St. Louis to win the cup. Yeah, good point.
Buffalo didn't want him.
Yeah, well, they're dummies. But I look at Ryan O'Reilly. I even look at Kopitar, where it's just not as pretty as Connor or Nathan McKinnon. But those guys are incredible hockey players. Mark Stone, to me, this era might go down as one of the best hockey IQs I think I've seen in this era.
And then you go, you're 100% right. And then you say, okay, Pietrangelo gave them almost 25 minutes last night. He and Theodore McNabb is a guy that I didn't think could play 4 or 5 years ago. All of a sudden, McNabb is in their top 4, and Martinez is a good. I mean, we have to give credit where credit's due, because we've ripped Kelly a little bit on the sumo wrestler. So we've got to, Petrangelo, Stone,
Listen, Mac,
Martinez, some good pickups.
They pushed it with they pushed the envelope. It doesn't appear like it's ripped open, but they were a team pushed against the cap that cost them home ice advantage.
Mm-hmm.
They overspent on Leonard when they didn't necessarily need him with Fleury to put so much stock and cap money into a backup position or a 1B. But they're finding ways. And I look at this team, and now you compare it to Colorado, and we like Colorado's blue line, but it is still
love it.
It's inexperienced. You mentioned Petrangelo, Alec Martinez. You mentioned McNabb coming on, and they just look like they're a little bigger, a little heavier, a little bit more experienced, a little bit more battle tested. And the pendulum's really swung now in Vegas's favor.
And not as pretty as the Colorado blue line. The Colorado blue line have the great skaters and puck movers. They really do. Gerard, Makar is going to be a superstar, if he isn't already. I mean, Taves, a great pickup. Nemeth has been decent. Timmins, another youngster in the back end who's going to be a good player. I mean, I love their blue line. I love their blue line.
Great. Graves had a tough night, Mac, with
and you wonder if Graves, I mean, getting his bell rung there, I mean, did that affect the series? We saw what happened with Graves in that scrum.
Yeah.
With Reeves. I mean, has that had any effect on this series?
Again, when it comes to, and it's not like Colorado, got outplayed here. They were there. They were there. The game.
They played well, except for 3 big mistakes.
Burakovsky tries to go up the middle of the ice. Just a horrific mistake. The other one too was the 4-on-2, Mac. But this is the prime example, Mac, of where you don't necessarily have to be the fastest team all the right. If you remember the 4-on-2, Graves pushes up and goes almost lateral with Kyper, and there's just no seam for Landeskog to get that puck to Graves.
Right.
And Graves is going too fast.
Yeah.
There's no layering in that 4-on-2.
Yeah.
And you may look at Landeskog and say that's a bad pass. But what did Graves do to open up a seam for him to make him feel like he can make that pass? And then Marchessault goes down 5 seconds later and buries a goal that devastates them. Absolutely sucks the life out of them. That led them to an overtime. But those are bad mistakes that I think Winnipeg over the course of the last 3 seasons has probably learned a few lessons.
You know what? I mean, I love the analytics stuff. I did a lot of research the past year on looking at the different analytics from, Sports Logic and all the things lots of teams are doing. I don't hear a lot about analytics at playoff time. Do you notice that?
There's still some people to, make you believe that.
Right. And I do. And I still believe it's good stuff. Don't get me wrong. But what you just mentioned, a word that was a critical word and is a critical word in defensive zone play in the playoffs. And that's layering. If somebody's going to get the puck to my net or to a team's net, they got to go through a couple of layers to get there. It's not just beating one guy. It's how you layer defensively to make it harder to get to the paint. Montreal did it against Toronto. They had a challenging time, although again, you still need the great saves. You still need the goaltender, but the layering is a great concept. I remember bringing our wingers down to the tops of the circles. I used to say them, come down to the tops of the circles. You can still cover your points. And if a guy is going to walk the circle, you make sure you're whacking him when he's going by. So it's all about making it tougher to get to the net, so it's kind of fun to watch.
Well, and you watch Vegas, and there is an appreciation for certain guys that are, the foot soldiers. You just talked about Tampa Bay a little while ago, but I look at this Chandler Stevenson, and on the surface, Mac, it's not a sexy name. There's not a lot of people that can tell you a ton about him. There's no marketing around him, and yet you look at him, and how many playoff games do you think he's played in his career, Mac?
He was brought in to be a fourth line center or fourth liner. He's their number one center. I don't know. What's he played? 10?
How many games, playoff career games?
I'm thinking 10, 12.
62.
62. Well, he played a bunch in Washington.
Well, of course. He had the cup run in Washington.
I was thinking in Tampa, or how many has he played in Vegas? I thought was the
30, Mac.
Yeah.
It's
unreal.
30 in Vegas. He's played over 30 in Washington.
Yeah.
And a ton of experience. And you watch him do little things out there, and there's a real appreciation for this guy. And even if I'm watching William Karlsson, the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Saad gets in game 5 the first goal, and they come back, I think, 5 or 7 minutes later on that crazy play. And it was just Karlsson's play to get the puck back into a dangerous area that set that whole thing off. And then the move last night to Marchessault, cutting in the middle of the ice, just brilliant hockey.
Karlsson, isn't it amazing? Karlsson was a fourth line center in Columbus. Since he's got a little flurry going in Vegas. Since he first came there, he's been an unbelievable number 1 or number 2 centerman. He hasn't dipped below number 2 centerman there. I mean, that line of Marchessault and Riley Smith has been a consistent line for Vegas. So Karlsson has been a great pickup. Stevenson, great pickup. And like you said, a lot more experience than I would have thought. I mean, I remember him in lots of nights in Washington. He didn't play that much,
Well,
he's become a real important player.
The good news for the Minnesota Wild is they don't look like they could use a guy like Tuck as well. Oh my gosh!
Oh my God! Does he look good? And that third line for Vegas was a difference maker last night. And we haven't even touched on Pacioretty. How comes back from the injury and he scored. What he does, he seems to find a way to score the big goals. So hey, this is Colorado. Big game for them. They've got to go into Vegas and bring this home. They have got to. After the season they've had, and after I picked them to go to the finals, they've got to go in and get this back home.
And there is a ton of pressure on McKinnon, who we constantly throw out, the second best player on the planet.
Right.
But the pressure on Rantanen, Landeskog, and McKinnon is huge in game 6. You mentioned Point stepping up. We see Marchand stepping up with Boston. This is a must, Mac. This isn't, I hope they do. They must.
Well, you see it all around the league this time of year, don't you? You see Barzal comes up with big plays. He's still a kid, but he comes up with big plays. You see it all around where certain big guys are there. And then certain big guys aren't there for their team. And it's really, obviously, look, the one thing we haven't mentioned, and we talked about it lots before, is the Kadri loss. The Kadri loss to Colorado is a bad. I mean, this guy must be shaking his head how he's let his group down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Because I'm sorry. That center ice. That center ice, it's almost like the look of Winnipeg center ice when Scheifele leaves. I'm not comparing the two, but that number 2 center ice is not good enough right now either. And that hurts the big line because there's no defending after the big line.
Yeah.
That's a monumental loss.
Seriously. It's a big ask from Comfort.
Big time. Comfort to go in there is and it changes how you defend against them when you don't have that number 2 line.
Yeah.
That's a factor.
No, that's a great point, Mac, because Kadri is, outside of making some stupid
Oh,
decisions,
he's
he's got the game
I know. This
for
time of
this
year.
time of year.
I know. And he blew it, man. And I look at Shifley. I listened to Blake Wheeler's comment yesterday. It was actually really a good 6-minute clip, Blake Wheeler, as the captain of the team. And he said it. He said, look, no excuses. Montreal were a better team. But Shifley leaving our lineup changes the look of our team. Yeah. It definitely changes the look of our team. So anyway, interesting. But isn't it certain big guys seem to be there every year, and certain big guys have a hard time getting over that hump. But some eventually get there and some never do.
And again, the pressure on these guys, because they take so much of the salary cap, your star players take it. It's one thing to play in a series to hold your team, and then there's another one when you have to deliver. Yeah. And that's where we are with Nathan MacKinnon in Game 6.
And you know what? Matthews is going to face this in Toronto. He's going to face it. McDavid's going to face until they get over the hump. They're MacKinnon, Matthews, McDavid. 3 of the greatest players in the game still have got to get over that hump.
That game goes Thursday. Avalanche and Golden Knights, 9 p.m. Eastern. That place will be like they're going to blow the roof off when they step on the ice.
Oh, man, it'll be wild.
I tell you what, Colorado better be ready because they smell blood.
My buddy in Vegas told me the other night after they won the game, not last night, but the previous game in Vegas, the strip was unbelievable. It was on fire like you've never seen it. So they're into it right now.
Good. That's the way we like it out in Vegas. Loving hockey. Tonight, we got the Islanders, Mac. I don't think too many people thought the Islanders could end this thing in 6 games. But again, when we talk about star players having to step up, you almost feel guilty of asking Brad Marchand to do it again and again and again. But that's what it may take for Boston to hold on in the series, is that line again to step up.
Well, they do yeoman's duty. Every 82 games in the regular season, they show up, and every playoff game they show up. But I am getting sick of the second and third line not doing anywhere close to what they should do. I look at Coyle at $5.2 million, Ritchie, high pick, DeBrusk. They had to sit. DeBrusk, he's been in and out of the doghouse nonstop. That line cost them a couple of games ago. Then they come back, and I didn't notice Hall the other night. Sorry.
Yeah.
Played well. It's back to the same thing we talked about these big guys have got to come through. For them to count on Bergeron and Marchand, they need to count on Krejci and Hall and that group to come through. Their fourth line is battled. They battle their ass off, but penalty killing let them down, and a couple of their big boys, other than Bergeron and Marchand. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, am I missing something? Did I see Hall the other night in that game?
Yeah, there was again, we kind of know at this point what Hull is. Do we
I know.
not?
I know. But I mean, he's been a good pickup for them.
No,
and they're looking to get him signed on a long-term deal. They're trying to get a fair dollar there to make sure he's there.
He is.
But he's a guy, Nick. He's one of these guys. He hasn't ever got over the hump.
Don't miscast him as a star or a nucleus guy. He is a great support guy.
That's exactly right. But you know what, Nick? You need support guys.
I know. You
need support guys. You need Pajot. You need Nielsen.
He needs a clear night.
You need Beauvillier. You need some of these guys. Yeah. You got to have those support guys come through for you. And for me, the support guys in Boston, their second and third line has let them down big time.
No, Hull needs to have a reputation game tonight. that
Yeah.
we can look back on his career and say that was a big night, a big moment, a turning point moment for Taylor Hall. 2 goals and an assist, a win that gets you to Game 7. That's
Yeah.
what these moments are
You know what?
all about. It presents itself for Taylor Hall tonight.
And if Charlie Coyle's not going, like, Charlie Coyle is such an enigma for me because he's at over $5 million on a long-term deal, and oh my God, does he want to play a cute game? And I'm sorry, that size, they need him. And if he's not going, get him the hell out of there.
More years at 5.25. You know, Mac, you kind of bring up an interesting point because this is such a crossroad game for Boston where you can easily win and carry on that feel that you've got presently a very strong contending team, or you're 60 minutes away from wondering where do you start over again. And in many ways, you will be at a crossroad because Krejci's done after this year. Bergeron's got one more year. And Mac, there's some people out there that are telling me that they would not be surprised to see Patrice Bergeron shut it down after next year.
I mean, what more can be asked of Patrice Bergeron? You and I were in Chicago in that Stanley Cup final where the guy could hardly walk, talk, and he played. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that? I mean, this guy is one of the greatest battlers of all time. And that comment, well, it surprises me that you just made it, but he has been such a valuable guy. And you're 100% right. They're at the crossroads. Corrali walks after this year as a fourth line guy who I think should be a third line guy, but for whatever reason, Cassidy doesn't give him a chance there very often. He's going to walk. I mean, their blue line is starting to thin out. I mean, this is a team, if they lose, and I'll tell you what, Cam Neely and Jeremy Jacobs and Don Sweeney want to hear nothing of this. They want to keep being a contender. I wouldn't want to be the guy going in and telling Jeremy Jacobs, well, we're going to start a rebuild.
Well, listen, Bergeron's at the end of the deal is going to be, 37, I think, or
Wow.
turning 37. Got a lot of wear and tear, Mac. He had concussion issues early. He doesn't strike me as a guy that wants to squeeze every last, dime or ounce of energy out of his body. I don't see him being a Joe Thornton per se. So the only question is if he does extend past next year, if it is, can he see himself in another uniform or a team that may be in a rebuild or reset with Krejci gone and those other players that you just mentioned. So, hey, listen, I'm not retiring Bergeron after this next season, but there are some suggesting that he won't know really how he'll feel by then. And if that's the case, then Boston has a brand new look as early as next season.
I have so much admiration for this guy. I don't know Patrice Bergeron, but I watched him play when I was in the league as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember him watching him in junior. This is a kid that's put every ounce that he could put into the game. And I mean, I'll tell you what, when the Boston Bruins lose him, and he's made, to me, he's helped make Marchand a superstar, and Marchand had now become just an important key guy. He's helped Pasternak become a real player who's a star now. He's helped so many guys in this Boston organization. And you know what? And then you got to give some credit to the Islanders, like Pajot. How great a pickup has he been from the Ottawa Senators? I mean, Lou Lamoriello paid a big price for Pajot, gave him a new deal. Man, oh man! I mean, they flipped him and Nielsen on the lines the other day, and people have talked about how that's helped change the series. It's been fun to watch. Dobson, a kid, he's a PEI Summerside kid. I'm really proud. I don't know Dobson. I know lots of people that love this guy. He's been an impressive kid to come in and pick up a couple of assists the other night. It's kind of fun to watch. So this is a battle tonight. This is a great game tonight.
You think Barzal is there? He's arrived as their star, their face, their go-to guy, because you still look at the Islanders and there's a feel that, like the Montreal Canadiens, they're good, but they're not great, but you could still win being good.
I mean, I think he's close to becoming a game breaker. Big plays, and if they get him to be the game breaker that everybody thinks he can become, along with the other guys they have. The Islanders have had so much trouble scoring. That's been the trouble. If he becomes the game breaker, which most people think he will become, he's already close to that. But with the foot shoulders, I mean, let's not forget they don't have Lee. Big loss. Nielsen's been good. Pajot's been good. Lots of guys been good. But Barzal still made a couple of big plays the other night on goals.
And while we drool over Vasilevsky and Carey Price right now, Varlamov again in a position, Mac, where he's got to win one of two games.
Well, he's faced 40. I mean, in fairness to the Bruins, they outshot them 40-19. Like the game should have been over in the first period.
Yeah.
And then they get a power play at the end, and boom. At the end of the first period, they score on the power play goal. A shit call for me. I would have lost if I was Cassidy on that one alone without waiting until after the game to go off. But anyway, it's it'll be a fun game tonight, and I think he's faced 40 shots in 4 of the 6 games, hasn't he? Or in 4 of the games, he's faced 40 plus shots. So he's been good.
He's been good. He's just got to close it out. Being good isn't good enough until you close it out. So we'll watch that in anticipation. A couple thoughts on your buddy Gerard getting the gold medal, Mac, and how he just made himself probably another $500,000 a year on his contract.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, look, I touched base with him a couple times in Latvia. It wasn't looking very pretty. I mean, getting Mangiapane was a huge break, and then you see Connor Brown play so well, and some of the young guys. But look, it was great for he and Mike Kelly to get it. We all knew, there's no surprise Gerard was going to get another job. I mean, we know that. Now the question is, where does he end up? I mean, I still think he'll end up being with the Rangers. We'll see. There's some real good. What's amazing in coaching is the biggest names in coaching the last few years. Okay, Babcock, Julian. Names in coaching don't appear to be getting a sniff for any of these jobs. How bizarre is that?
Well, the other thing too is maybe they've
all of a sudden it's Gerard, it's Tocchet. What happens to Brind'Amour? What happens if Brind'Amour leaves Carolina?
I don't
see that.
There's really no sense of that happening.
I don't see it. I don't.
Okay. There's nothing that suggests to anybody that that's going to be the case. And the only thing that's interesting in all of this, Mac, is if Brind'Amour does sign for what we anticipate would be a low market valued contract. Does his owner now, Tom Dundon, say, "Hey, Brendan, I appreciate you skimming about $1.5 million. I'm just going to pass it on to your assistant coaches and administrative people and trainers." I don't see that happening. I really don't.
No, it's not happening. He wants everybody to work. First of all, no contracts and no term, and also less dollars. I mean, look, he's the owner. He can do what he wants. The team is positioned to be a pretty good team. I mean, I look at that Metropolitan next year, and you've got the Rangers are going to be better. Carolina is going to be good. We don't know where Pittsburgh is. We don't know where Philly's going to be. But it's going to be the Metropolitan's going to be a war next year. So
And
it'll be fun. I'd like to see. I mean, I'm thrilled for Girard. I talked to him after briefly, and it was a big. Anytime you win a championship, it's real exciting.
no question about that. But I anticipate something happening in the next, week, because these guys don't want to sit around and wait, right?
No,
they want to get going.
And Drury is an interesting guy. Nobody really knows how to read him right now. He's being very methodical in this. Some people are saying he's going to take his time. I'm not sure I'm buying that. As a matter of fact, I don't. But he appeared, and he's close to the vest. Nobody really knows what's going on. So we shall see.
What is it that you don't buy about Chris Drury that he doesn't?
No,
I
buy
or you think
it.
He's got his guy? You think he's got his guy?
I think he's thinking, I can't afford to make a mistake on this hire. I think that's what he's thinking. I got to make sure this is the right choice. I think he loves Girard. I think he really likes Tocchet. I think he's being methodical about it. Do you think I'm wrong?
No, I don't. But if a guy like Roberto Luongo, who orchestrated the whole roster, says to everybody one of the best coaches to buy in and play hard for, it's not that easy. It's not that hard of a decision.
No, it isn't. But I mean, I guess Luongo is not I mean, is he the biggest judge of coaches out there? I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I just think Girard,
he knows a room.
Runner.
He knows character. He knows a room.
I just, I hope that. Well, that's nothing. I mean, who out there doesn't say that Girard is a player's coach? I mean, that's common knowledge. He's a guy that players really like and play hard for. And he doesn't have to suck up to them. He doesn't have to stroke them. He just has to be honest with them. And for some, it's good enough. Others may not like his candidness, but he's had success with it the last little while. And the bottom line, this is a big coaching move for Girard. If he gets the Ranger job, this is a job where he's gone Columbus, Florida, Vegas. This is the job that he's got to do some major damage in. Getting to the Stanley Cup Finals was unbelievable. Losing the first round. This is to me, the Ranger job is the best job out there, and that's why I hope he gets it. I got to admit, I was expecting you to be a little slow today, a little kind of sluggish. Jordan, we weren't expecting this much jam on the show today. We were going to bring him in slowly, weren't we?
Don't wrap me into this. I had no expectations. Low expectations. You don't get it. You don't get disappointed.
He wasn't expecting anything out of you today, Mac.
Wait till you see me on day 12 in quarantine.
Same shirt, same hat. And
here's the other thing. There's low water. For whatever reason, we've got low water pressure at the cottage, okay? And so you phone my buddy Wilford, the plumber, who I've known since I was 8, who I've been buddies with since I was 8, okay? Wilf, the plumber. And you know what he says? Oh, you're in quarantine. I can't come out. I can't go to your place because you're in quarantine. They will not come. Last year, our fridge wasn't working, and we had to I had a couple buddies drop beer fridges off at the end of the driveway, and we used the RV fridge. Like, seriously, nobody will even come near us. They think we got the plague.
So forget the fridge. You got low flow.
Do you need some better flow? What are you going to do?
This is like a Seinfeld episode with you.
Do you need a new shower?
And they won't let me go in swimming because you can go to the high water line. So I got to it's going to be ugly. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Our thoughts go out to Jill.
All our viewers and listeners are just going to be with you every step of the way.
Yeah. RV trip and now the quarantine odyssey.
All right. Great effort by Doug Maclean. We've got him back, and we're going to be with him every step of the way during this quarantine. So make sure you're watching. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see you Friday on the Real Kyper at Noon show.